previous lessons you've been learning about web scraping and how it's important for data science. So now I'm going to show you how to perform some web scraping using Swift. So previously we created some extensions in the lessons. So we made an extension for our string which separates our file names. This is just when we were reading and writing our data. We also created this write file method which allowed us to write to an external file. So we're going to be using these two, so if you haven't seen those videos, please make sure that you go back into the playlist and get those. So it's going to fold those up. So we're going to be working with this URL here from Google Finance, and we're going to output to a text file. So we're going to be using some of these things here to make sure that works correctly. So I've created my base level function. My function is going to have two parameters passed. It's going to have the URL passed, which is of type URL, and it's going to have the output file, like you see here, which is a string. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a blank variable. This is where my content will sit once I pull it all in, and this will be of type NSString. From there, I'm going to create a task for my session. And this will be shared data task, and we're going to use the URL which is being passed through. This will return the data, a response, an error, and we want return type to be void. Again, if you haven't seen closures before, please make sure you go back to those as well. So if there's an error, and that error equals nil, then we know that our scraping was successful. So we can set the content to equal that data. The encoding for this will be string.encoding ASCII. We'll get the raw value of that as a string. I'll unwrap that explicitly. So once we have that content, we can then use our method, which I spoke about here, where we're going to write to the file. The output file will be from our parameter passed through. My string that I'm going to put in here will be my URL content. And make sure we put that as a string because we need to pass that as a string for our method here. Then we're going to print out some sort of output just so we know that it's successful. From there, we need to make sure that we stop the playground running. So my playground page, current page that we're working on, I want to finish execution. So what this does is ensures that your page stops running while you're executing it. So you would have noticed sometimes Swift Playgrounds hangs a lot. This will allow you to stop that. We also want to make sure that it runs at the top. So if you haven't included this line at the top from previous projects, you need to add that as well. The last thing that we need to do is to end this, to resume this task. So we created this task here, but currently it's not being run. So we need to make sure that that is also executed. So now I can execute my code. And I can see that it was successfully run. Okay. If I don't have this output.file text on my desktop, then it should find it for me as well. Let's go to my desktop, output.text, and what you should see is it pulling all of the HTML files down. So what your job is going to be is to now import this file as you've done before, and I want you to find all of the relevant data information for the stock prices and how they have changed. So on the right hand column there is some data which I'll show you now. So if I go to Yahoo Finance, I want you to be able to find these 6 stocks. So I want the name of the company, what their ticker code is, and the percentage increase or decrease. Now, for a little hint on how you can do this, if you're using Chrome, you can go to View, Developer, Developer Tools. From here, if you press on this little arrow icon at the top, you can use this to find the div which these sections are sitting within. Okay, so from here, you'll be able to find keywords such as this here, which will be the style of this section, or here, the class name. That'll make it a little bit easier for you to locate that data while you're sifting through it. So this is your first test really in dealing with large data sets, and we're going to be exploring this a little bit more and bringing some more structure to it in the future.